we all can use a little bit of that, I hope. But if you got it all together, then pass the information on to somebody else who might not, okay? Because we all are work in progress. So how many of you all are familiar with the term survival mode? Like when you hear that word, you kind of have an idea of what that might mean. So I like to be interactive. I'm not going to stand up here and just talk the entire time. I like to ask questions and get people involved. That's how I get asked to come back. So for you all, what does survival mode mean? If anybody has your own definition or when you think of that, you kind of already have an idea. You can shout it out, but I'd love to hear some other ideas for that. Anybody?
Just enough to get by.
Just enough to get by. Anybody? That's a good one. Anybody else have one? When you see that up there, you have a thought when you see this person up here?
Lord help me, I can't do it.
Lord help me, I can't do it. Has any of us in the room ever been there?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm talking to. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Well, I have this theory, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today, that a lot of times we have been operating in survival mode without really recognizing or talking about the fact that we have been in survival mode. It's been a lot of transition that has happened in the world, not just recently, but period. If you've been alive lately, then you know that there's been a lot of transition, a lot of things have changed, a lot of things are continuing to be on the horizon. So what I want to do today is kind of define some of the challenges that our society and community at large has, and think about the people, again, that you might know that are struggling with some of this stuff. So I did provide a little bit of a definition of survival mode. And what that's called simply is hyper-functioning individuals. So you may be a person that is still going to work every day, but operating in survival mode. You may be a person that has a family to take care of, and you're doing that, but you still might be in survival mode. It may be a person that has unprocessed pain. You dealt with something happened, you never got over it, you kept moving, you kept going. Prioritizing survival over self, prioritizing the needs of other people over yourself, and you still have something inside of you that needs to be kind of dealt with. Some people in here might be big proponents of therapy. Therapy, coaching, something of that nature is the way to process some of the pain that we deal with. But not recognizing that things have happened in our life is the first step that we need to all kind of think about when you just kind of process even the last 5 years. Survival mode, again, defined. It could be seen as maybe spiritually disconnected, but socially involved. Maybe showing up to things, and maybe it's half of yourself is present, and the other half is still dealing with some things. And we even also call that mentally present, but emotionally frozen. When I say some of those things, can you think of people that you might personally know that could be affected by this? I just want to ask the question in the room. You don't have to say anything out loud, but I do want to ask that because sometimes people are dealing with things and they're not telling you. I meet people in my coaching space where they're identified as having high empathy, where they can kind of read when other people are dealing with stuff, and we talk about that a lot. They almost call it like a superpower. I don't have that as much as others. I think my wife has that pretty well, but what I say is that when you feel that from somebody else that they may be dealing with something, it's a good time to investigate that. A practice that we do in coaching is asking questions. Now, don't ask the person, what you going through? What you dealing with? You all right? That's what my mama does to me. You all right? No, I'm not all right. Now I don't even want to talk to you because you didn't already make me feel like something's wrong with me. And a lot of times people who are going through something or in that survival mode, they have something going on and they might not be able to truly define it. And when you come a little bit abrasive, saying what's wrong with you or making assumptions, they won't open up. And I don't know how many of you have children. I have 2 small children, but for this generation that's under me, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, that's what they're defined as, they are more high stress than any generation before them. And that's a true statement. You can Google it, research it, ChatGPT it. It's a fact. And others of us aren't able to relate to what they're going through because we say, just suck it up. Stop crying. You'll be all right. I've been through worse. But we aren't having empathy or being empathetic to what they're dealing with. Because none of us in this room had to grow up with this in our face. None of us had to go through high school during COVID. Can you imagine going to your prom and you were in a car waving, and that's the only way that you're able to socially connect with people? Or not having your graduation or prom completely canceled for things that you had nothing to do with? Or showing up to college in your freshman year and everybody has on masks, or you're all virtual and you're supposed to be at Alabama or LSU or this Baylor or amazing school, but your freshman year is at home in your room and your parents still paying their tuition bill. Maybe in your pocket right there. So some of y'all probably had to experience some of that. But having empathy for other people, seeing the next generation of kids that are coming up and not asking them what's wrong with them, but just having a conversation and getting to know them. Because I guarantee you, what's on the screen here about survival mode and hyperfunctioning, that is a lot of children's and adults' reality. And so I just kind of want to preface that and surface that up to the top. And I hope, again, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's not you. But I guarantee you, either the 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5th person that's connected to you is dealing with something like this. And we all have a little bit of that going on in us. I mean, I don't know how many of y'all wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is check your phone. That's normal in society. But is it normal? Or have we created these norms and made them normal? So I want to talk a little bit about trauma and grief and still being required to show up, because I think that's more of our reality today, maybe in this room as leaders, right? But some of you all that lead teams, some of you all who've led teams for a long time, or you've been required to leave your baggage at the door, right? That's what we do. We show up to work, we leave our stuff behind us. That's good leadership. But when you leave work and you pick that baggage back up, how are you processing that? I don't know about you all, but during COVID, I lost someone very important to me. And how many of us have dealt with that? Did anybody lose someone during COVID? Maybe not a physical person, but lost a piece of someone. Maybe someone, or even yourself, is not the same since then. So, and I hate to make a conversation after an amazing lunch like this so somber, but what I want to do is, as you all are leaders equipped to change lives and communities, empower you to ask the questions that need to be asked to your communities and people that you either live with, work with, or bypass. Even a cashier at HEB might need a little extra love, right? Like when I go to HEB, I always ask questions to my cashier: how you doing? What time do you get off? Are they scared of what time? My wife, no. She's my fact checker over here. What time do you get off? And nothing brighten up a person's day than asking them what time they get off work. Whew, I got 5 hours left. You're almost there. I am almost there. Yeah, you're gonna do this. I can do this. Yeah. That'd be $33.97. All right, have a good day. Because how many times do people just not do that at all, right? I mean, we're all in the service field. My company, what we do is service other clients and people. Nobody ask me how my day is going. I'm asking them because I'm of service to you. But it's rare when people actually spend time and ask, because I guarantee you again that 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5th person is going through some things, and they're still being required to show up and expected to perform at a high level. How many of us in the room are breadwinners, right? You may be the one in your family that's required or responsible for the lights being on, food being on the table, things of that nature. We just leave our baggage at the door. Nobody ever asks us how we doing. We just manage it. I have a friend named Tasha. She always says, who helps the helper? Who leads the leader? Because it's usually just us. We're the last step. It's us and all the people who ring in our phone in the mornings. So there's a term that I learned a few years ago, and it was new to me, maybe not be new to you, but it's called highly functioning depression. And this is more on the adult side, where I think a lot of adults are we're just going. We're going. Don't ask me no questions. I don't want to deal with things. I don't want to be asked certain things. And there's a definition for this kind of stuff. And truthfully, it's for us internally to deal with first, recognizing if we're even going through anything. Because maybe I'm making a lot of assumptions. And I hope that however you take this information, you help the next person. It's not just about us. It's about helping the next person who may be dealing with something. And we don't want to make assumptions. But the definition of how high functioning depression is when a person appears to be managing life, going to work, showing up for others, handling responsibilities, while quietly battling persistent low-grade depression. It's low-grade. It's not where it's obvious, like something. What's going on with Alicia? It's not obvious. You would never know. You would never know. They don't look depressed. They often overachieve. Maybe work is a way that they deal with that. But underneath the surface, they feel chronically tired, numb, empty, disconnected, or emotionally drained. And if none of those words have been you ever, congratulations, you have been an A student in life. But for the rest of us, we have certainly been numb, chronically tired, empty, disconnected, or emotionally drained at some point in our lives. And unless we recognize it, we'll just continue to go down the pattern of feeling that way. And so my hope today is that we kind of talk about that a little bit, just at least have a conversation that is rarely had. That's why I wanted to talk about this particular today, because how many times do we actually talk about this for real? Unless maybe you are in a therapy session or you in maybe a conversation with your doctor or something like that. But why can't we just talk about it as a people, right? Like, why we got to be in a medical environment to talk about how we feel? My wife, she does a great job with our son. He's 4, and I came home one day and they had this summer bridge book because he's out of school for the summer, and they were talking about feelings, and I was just like, oh, okay, a 4-year-old talking about feelings. He said, today I feel happy, and I said, okay, because I don't remember if my mama ever asked me how I felt. Boy, you better. That was how I felt. Boy, you better, and there was an underlook. It was always a chore, right? No matter the age. So I want to take us back just a little bit and reflect on maybe why the state of the world is in the state that it's in when it comes to how we feel. Because we all can remember COVID 2020. Let me just say a reminder that was a once-in-a-generation situation. A pandemic only happens once every 100 years. So we're still feeling the effects of that. And we fully, if ever, have gotten over it. Life changes after an event like that. And how many of us have actually recognized and acknowledged that? There are so many things that happened during that time. Does anybody remember where you were during COVID when you first realized that, or when they first told you don't come back to work, or however they handled that situation, the first kind of moment? Where were y'all? I want to hear where some people were. I'm curious. I know where I was. It's almost like 9/11. When 9/11 hit, everybody knew where you were. Right? Same thing with COVID. Where were some of you? I'm just curious. Yes.
I was in Los Angeles on UCLA campus for a conference, watching people leaving, and the campus nothing was there. And we're checking the news and everything was shutting down. And I'm like, oh Lord, am I able to make my flight? And I realized this is real. Stuff has changed.
On campus, not at home. Anyone else? Remember where you were?
I was at work.
You were at work?
Still working.
What was the energy like, though? When you were at work, used to work, you get this news and information, but what else is going on? Is there panic? Is there people who don't know what's next?
Well, of course it's painful. Didn't work without masks. We had our chains up. So nobody can come to the community. Yeah.
Things change.
And 6 feet away from each other, probably the problem. So
And we made it normal. Mm-hmm. Right. I saw your hand up.
I was at dinner with some girlfriends, and they were asking me, someone from buying Costco, and they were like, why is everybody buying everything? Why is Costco empty? And like the next day, when everything shut down.
Right. Yes.
I was at home watching the news, but what I noticed had changed. No longer could you call for sneeze without somebody looking at you crazy.
Right. Right. Right.
You
I
can
remember that. I remember being in, I guess I go to HEB. I remember being in HEB and a lady sneezed hard. And she said right after she sneezed, I am not sick. And I was one of the people. Everybody was looking at me. I don't know. And then it was a real thing. Sneezing out loud was a real thing. And how many of us held that sneeze? We didn't want to be out. And we called that normal.
Yeah.
And we hadn't talked about it since. And we just moved on with life. Now we sneeze because it's okay. Now I'm curious to talk about it a little more. How many of you had the mask with the shield? Right.
3-4 masks.
3-4 masks. Yes.
I was I hurt my back at work like a week before the whole pandemic. We had to stay home, and I was at the time living with my grandparents. And I was worried about them because of their age, and they would usually go to the supermarket together. But I would have to now be the one to go out and pull out my whole body essential. I try to get to the front of the line. But one thing that was distinct to me, because I was in New York at the time, I'm actually from New York, and in New York people didn't care. They just wanted their space though. You know, 50 feet. But other than that, people were outside. Because I hurt my back, the doctor's offices were closed, so it made me change my perspective about how would the world look if something was to happen. As far as glasses, if my glasses broke and the doctor was closed, how would I be able to see? Because, I went and got LASIK as soon as the pandemic closed. But it made me start thinking about like the things that we do every day, how important that stuff is, medications and having certain things. And maybe start thinking about end of the world movies. I watch a lot of those. And just understanding how we function on day to day and the things that we need to keep in mind and learn in case of a disaster. Basic skills, that a lot of us don't have and our children don't have.
Right. And how many people, we talk about the movies, how many people got to the end of Netflix? There were people that got to the end. I don't know if y'all heard that. Like, people watched everything they could possibly watch. And then it said, there was jokes that said, you made it to the end of Netflix. There's nothing else to watch.
I read a lot of books.
Yeah, I read
A lot of books. Lots of things. Lots of time to be alone and isolated and self-reflect. Yes.
So I just want to share, I was actually on a European vacation when that happened. And we woke up in the morning to a bunch of texts going, you guys gonna be able to get home? And I'm like, what is going on? And then that's when I realized they made the announcement that no more travel from Europe. And so it was a little panicking for a few days to figure out if we were going to be able to get home. And of course we did. And then and this is the thing, in Europe, like everything was fine. Like nobody was doing nothing different. Like we were packing into the subway, no masks, like it was all just like. So then we get home and everybody's got a mask on and we go to the grocery store and the shelves are all bare and the toilet paper's all gone. Packed a thick of toilet paper in my suitcase. So just different how the world around responded.
It's interesting. That's one thing we're going to do as Americans when it's a disaster. We're going to take us the toilet paper. So the world was different, and the residue still remains, even if we don't recognize it on a daily basis. And so many things occurred during that time, and I applaud saying, recognizing that work still was work. And I'm sure that remained for many people in the room. But our families were affected. kids going to school, little kids, elementary, virtually. Did any of your parents in the room have to navigate that? And so, even though things are back to normal, our spirits are still different, I'd say. And so, when you go back to us kind of talking about the things that people are dealing with when it comes to survival mode and kind of trying to navigate the highly functional depression that exists today, I just want to recognize that there was a pinpoint in our lives across generations where some of this began. I don't know if you remember before 2020 where it was kind of like normal, where you didn't have to wear a mask, you didn't have to experience the 6 feet, the bans of travel and all those things, but we're kind of starting to revert back to a new normal, post-pandemic, and still challenges remain. And not only did things impact our health and our ability to wear masks and things of that nature, but our psychology changed, people changed, the way we responded to trauma and pain changed. Just to reframe just a little bit, remember that if it's not you, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th person around you could be dealing with some of this stuff. And this is us kind of taking it a little step further to today's time. As you can see on the screen here, this era that we're in now is a lot different than what we dealt with during COVID. Where now we're active, we're out, or as the young people say, we're outside. I don't know if y'all heard that term before. But even as we are outside, there's still a lot of uncertainty.
What does that mean, we outside?
Yeah, that's it. We're not in the house anymore. It's confined to our mask and being under COVID rules. So now people are going a little extra mile than they usually used to. I think that would be kind of professional definition. So with that, there are lots of people that are dealing with a lot of uncertainty. And some of that uncertainty, or most of it, is rooted in job security. So obviously mass layoffs at the federal level, but that didn't just affect government workers, it's also affected the private sector. And then on top of that, you have AI hovering. And AI stands for artificial intelligence, hovering over the world in a sense where, you can write an email or a proposal or something like that in seconds. Things that used to take hours or if not days for a human to do it. And quite frankly, you kind of do it a little better than us sometimes. I don't know if y'all use the ChatGPT like me. But it's the new normal. So I've used the word new normal so many times today. What is normal now? You know what I mean? New normal at one point was back up, give me 50 feet, wear my mask, because I don't want to be around anybody getting me sick. Then we transition out of that, and now AI is here saying, hey, let me help make your job easier. Let me make your life easier. Let me make your grocery list for you and your travel plans. Ooh, really? That sounds terrific. Well, what's next, right? Nobody knows. I don't know. Maybe AI knows, but it doesn't know either. Because we have things happening like what just happened in our hill country. AI can't predict that. No system person can predict the future. It just kind of happens to us. And so that's really what the end of my talk today is about, is really us being grounded and prepared for life's uncertainty, a life's ability to impact us and hit us. And maybe some of this is where you can share the information with other people who, if you know anybody that's erratic all the time or worried all the time, I feel like I'm talking about my mom a lot. Or anybody that just doesn't really know what's next. And the reality is none of us knows. But why do we have to know what's next? Why do we have to predict everything and try to be prepared for everything when nobody's seen COVID coming? Nobody. And all the billions of people in the world and the smartest people in the world still couldn't figure out what was happening. Just some facts up here. You can't see the screen. Job insecurity fueled by mass layoffs and AI being a part of it. 82% of workers are reported to being burnt out. Young adults are burning out before 30. And a lot of those folks are having trouble finding jobs or keeping a job. Maybe it's finding or keeping, who knows? And some of them are still dealing with the effects of what I mentioned earlier. We have a healthcare crisis with our healthcare workers, a mass shortage, and then also teachers. Our education, our future of the next generation is being led by teachers that also are dealing with the same things. So I'm saying all this stuff. Am I ever going to get to some good stuff? Yes, right after this slide. So right after this slide is where I'll talk about how we can kind of have some resiliency in all the things that we're dealing with, because the truth is that we're numb to it. I said a lot and I didn't even finish. I really didn't say everything that's happened in the last 5 years. It's been a lot of stuff. And that's just at the, higher level of what we all know. I don't know what you've dealt with in your personal life, whether it's been your personal health, your personal finances, your personal spiritual life. Churches have been impacted. Many people don't even go back to church. It's like, I like my Sunday now. I get an extra day. I'm used to it. And also what may be affecting you and going on in your household. So it's a lot of us that are dealing with things and we're numb. And what I think in this time and going forward is that we need a great awakening. That's what we really need. And you wonder, well, what does that mean? That looks good on the screen. But what does it mean to have a great awakening? What I think is that what needs to be modeled for the next generation is us being more present, us being more aware, us being more conscious, us choosing the day and not letting the day choose us. Say that one again. Us choosing the day. You can choose what happens in your day. But if you don't choose what happens in your day, then you're reactive and your day happens to you. And it swallows you up, and next thing you know, it's 5 o'clock. And you're like, well, what did I do today? And then it's time for dinner. Or for me, it's time for bath for the kids, right? And I did not really bring my full self to the day. The day brought its full self to me and swallowed me up. And one of the first things we can do in that regard, and again, if this doesn't affect you, cool, but I would suggest you pass this on, and that is manage and monitor your mornings. That's the first step to managing your day, is how you start your day. Because that's going to impact what happens at 12 noon, what happens at that 5 o'clock hour, and how you lay your head on your pillow at night, and whether or not you felt like I did everything I needed to do today. And how many of our children, young people, are going straight to TikTok as soon as they wake up and are addicted. It's a true addiction. I mean, not just TikTok, but our phones, period. And we all do it. So the goal is to monitor and be the example that we want to see in the world. I think the other thing that's important is to stop calling things a coincidence. We see things happen in the world and happen in the news, and we just kind of, I wonder. A friend of mine, his mom, she's hospice care at the moment, but she's a fighter. He said the other day she wanted to watch Andy Griffin have a Subway sandwich at midnight. So it was like they can't. She keeps thriving. She keeps living. But one thing that he told me that she said recently that I thought was brilliant is that she said, God ain't sleep. God ain't sleep. And I said, what? That's a very powerful statement. And what I say that today is that there aren't a bunch of coincidences happening in the world. Some of it is to get our attention. And our job is to respond to what we see appropriately or ignore it. And the more we ignore it, the more that we just say, not my problem. And the rally cry is, what are we going to do for the next generation? And how are we going to model the behavior that we want them to have and exude in the world? So my call to action is to realign with your spirit in whatever way that may be for you. For some people, it's walking outside in the park, getting out in nature. For some people, it may be listening to music without lyrics. I know you can do that. Just listen to some songs that doesn't tell you all these different things, and you just kind of listen to yourself almost in a sense, or listening to nature, or journaling, or praying, or meditating, or whatever it may be. Because the biggest disconnect, it starts in the spirit. It's not just working out and feeling good and eating right. It's what you tell yourself. It's your internal thoughts, having healthy thoughts, telling yourself that I am good enough, and so is she, and so is he. Because there's a term, a sociology term that I learned about post. I think this was around 1920s and 1930s. It's called anomie. And anomie is a term that means it's a society of people that don't look at each other in the eye. They walk through hallways. They don't speak. They kind of just are observant of themselves. And I feel like that's kind of where we are today. There's been plenty of times where we walk in rooms and don't even say hello. We don't make eye contact. It could be an insecurity of our own, or a fear of our own, or maybe I don't trust this person, I don't trust that person. And the more that we have that in our minds, the more it becomes reality. But the more that you say, thank you for calling me your adopted son. Things like that. It just brightens up the day and brightens up the room instead of saying something negative about the next person. And in the realignment of the spirit, let's put our phones down more. And let's be back to who we kind of were, I don't know, maybe before 2010. It's kind of hard to go back to before the world of phones. When I talk to college students, I always say, did you know there was a thing called beepers? And people used to put them on their clip, on their hip, and beep, 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 beep. And then you run to the payphone, and then you pick up the payphone, you put a quarter in there, and you and then you make the phone call and say, is everything all right? You paged me 911. Yeah, I need you to pick up some milk. Okay, now I'm hanging up. Right now it's a text message. Pick up some milk. Okay, I'll pick it up on my way to HEB. So anyway, that's my time. Really, I just kind of wanted to bring that up to you all and just kind of let you know that it is our opportunity to redefine what is the new normal. We determine what that is. We can't just keep letting the media tell us what's normal. Fight back. Everything isn't true. Everything online is to get our attention. It's not just, or to make a sale. It's not just to tell you what the truth is. The truth starts in what we believe it to be, and then what we tell each other what it could be, and how we show up to the world, how we show up to the workplace, and how we show up for the next generation. Because right now, they're believing in everything, especially if they are true TikTokers. So we can reshape the world with our thoughts, our vision, our compassion for one another. And if I don't leave you with anything else, I want to leave you with this quote. You are the light of the world, a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak today. And I hope that you have a great rest of the day and the rest of the week.